Hello, I'm Joseph Giunta, the music director and conductor of the Des Moines Symphony. Thank you for joining me in today's DMSO Listening Room, a part of the DMSO at Home series of online videos produced by our musicians from their homes to yours. Today, I'll speak about music on the next virtual concert in our Live from the Temple series performed by members of your Des Moines Symphony. It includes 5 pieces from 3 countries spanning almost 240 years. We begin with iconic living composer William Bolcom's Commedia for almost 18th century orchestra, written in 1971. Now, if you like the music of, say, George Gershwin or Malcolm Arnold, you're going to love Bill's music. Commedia is scored for, as the title implies, a Haydn-sized orchestra, almost, with the almost referring to the added piano, piccolo, and E-flat clarinet, to give the piece a little bit more modern sound. Commedia is somewhat theatrically inspired from professional theater originated in Italy between the 16th and 18th centuries, called Commedia dell'arte. The music unveils scene by scene with catchy melodies and Haydn-esque humor. It is fresh, dreamy, nostalgic, jazzy, and flamboyant. The minute the listener gets caught up with a section, the scene changes, sometimes quite shockingly, from 18th century to 20th century sounds. He writes in a delightful style and gives every instrument something important to do. There's a stunning tarantella in the middle of the piece, which features E-flat clarinet. It's very effective. And this music is cheerful and charming and free, and it gives a feeling of being improvised in real time. Next, we go backward in time almost 200 years, when Joseph Bologna, Chevalier de Saint George, wrote his second symphony. Saint George was the illegitimate son of a wealthy French plantation owner and enslaved African Guadeloupean woman. He was born sometime between 1739 and 1749 in Basse-Terre, in the western half of Guadeloupe, in the Caribbean Sea. When he was 10 years old, his family moved to Paris so he could have the very best education possible. This obviously paid big dividends, because John Adams, the second president of the United States, upon hearing about St. George, referred to him as the most accomplished man in Europe in riding and shooting, fencing, dancing, and music. He was the first classical composer of African descent. He was a virtuoso violinist, a respected composer, and an excellent conductor. He was also the finest fencer of the day. When King Louis XV recognized his fencing talent, he named him Chevalier de Saint George, a title that he was prohibited from inheriting because of his African ancestry. His music demonstrates innovation throughout its textures and its harmonies. His music was committed to new ideas and unexplored territory. His only 2 symphonies were written in 1785 and were well received by the French public. St. George also directed the best orchestra in Paris and very possibly in all of Europe. He commissioned and conducted the premieres of all 6 of Haydn's Paris symphonies. His second symphony follows the usual format of the day: 3 short movements: fast, slow, fast. The music is light and airy and displays an eye toward the future with surprising harmonies. Next is Jessie Montgomery's tribute to the 200th anniversary of our national anthem, Banner. Her sources draw from anthems and patriotic songs from around the world. She's created an answer to the question, what does an anthem for the 21st century sound like in today's multicultural environment? The piece is written for string quartet, strings, 5 woodwinds, horn, trumpet, timpani, and percussion. The string quartet acts as one voice and works with and against the rest of the orchestra. In Jessie's own words, she says, for the most Americans, the Star-Spangled Banner represents a paradigm of liberty and solidarity against fierce odds. For others, it implies a contradiction between the ideals of freedom and the realities of injustice and oppression. Banner, written in 2014, acknowledges these contradictions that allow us to celebrate and maintain the tradition of our ideals. Franz Joseph Haydn spent much of his life working for the Esterhazy family of aristocrats. The orchestra that was employed had no more than 20 musicians and was only moderately proficient. Haydn finally convinced the prince to allow him to accept commissions from other places. And as I said earlier, the conductor Joseph Bologna, who conducted the Concert de la Loge Olympique Orchestra of Paris, commissioned 6 pieces by Haydn, later known as his Paris Symphonies. At the time, the Paris Orchestra was likely the best in France and quite possibly in all of Europe. Haydn welcomed the opportunity to write for this fine, virtuoso ensemble, which employed 40 violins, 10 each of violas, cellos, and basses. It seemed like anything he wrote, they could play at sight. These pieces were numbered from 82 through 87 and were all written in 1785 and 1786. The Paris audiences were quite familiar with Haydn's music, and each of these pieces was met with great approval. Even Haydn's friend Mozart called them concert essentials. Queen Marie Antoinette would often attend the orchestra's concerts, and as was customary at the time, the musicians would dress in sky blue dress coats with elaborate ruffles, swords at their sides, in her honor. We'll play the first and last movements of his 83rd Symphony, nicknamed the Hen, on this program. The first movement, marked Allegro Spiritoso, starts stormy in G minor. The second theme has dotted repeat notes in the oboe against a theme played in the violins that is full of grace notes, giving the impression of a hen with its jerky motions. The last movement has only one theme and is an impressive tour de force for orchestra in the style of a fast gigue. The program ends in a reflective manner with American composer Edward MacDowell's To a Wild Rose, the first of his 10 short pieces from his woodland sketches. The tranquility of this piece is welcome after the vivacious Haydn, and hopefully will leave you in a peaceful and reflective mood. The program is part of our Live from the Temple series and broadcast live on Thursday, February 11th at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I hope you can join us. More information can be found on our website, along with other online information at dmsymphony.org. Thanks so much for watching.